Happy Monday, everybody, and thank you so much for tuning into the Charity Movement podcast. Thank you to everyone who has been supporting the movement and supporting our audio and visual podcast. I appreciate it, and I am so excited about this episode. This person is my friend, and we are going to dive in the topic of dropping the dead weight. Okay, didn't the scripture say that we are laying aside every weight and the sin that so easily besets us? So we want to drop everything that is causing us to be stagnant from every plan and every purpose that God has in our lives. Okay, so I have an amazing person to talk to us about that today. We're going to be asking her some questions, and we are about to get kind of in her business, her business. You see what I'm about to say? So I have an amazing person. She is my friend and my sister. She is a wife, a mother. She is a baker. Okay, she can cook. Hello. She is a teacher. She is a support group leader. She and her husband have an organization that really addresses the losses that we deal with as couples and as women. And so she is just an all around powerhouse. She is a prayer intercessor. She is a doula. Okay. So we're about to get into all of those things. And she is just an amazing woman of God. Okay. Oh, and she also sings. She does everything. Okay. So I present to you my amazing guest today. Her name is Anesha Stanley. Come on, y'all.
Hey, Key.
Hey. I am so excited.
I am too. Thank you.
Good. You are so welcome. And I love that God allowed us to meet. And of course, we'll probably talk about this later. But
hmm
I love how God allowed us to meet. And I love all the things that all the ways that God has really pushed you and opened you up to grow just in the time that I've known you, like the
hmm
doula and everything. So it's just awesome. Okay. I'm so excited.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So let's get into this first question. What is Keys of Hope and why did you start it?
Okay. Well, Keys of Hope is so dear to my heart. Keys of Hope is actually something that I'm doing in memory or in honor of my children. And it's very personal to me because my husband and I have experienced pregnancy loss, recurrent pregnancy loss. So I've had three miscarriages and two life threatening ectopic pregnancies. And um, it was in the recovery of my last loss in 2018. When I lost my last baby, I was just tired. And I literally was just like, God, I have no more fight. I have nothing else to give to this situation. I need you to speak. And I
Yeah.
removed myself from everything. I removed myself as far as like, why me? Or what's going on with me? Or what happened? And who, what, when, where, how, and why? And I just began to say, okay, God, what are you doing? Who is this for?
Yeah.
What are you preparing me for? You've allowed me to walk through the valley of the shadow of death. And
Yeah.
this thing tried to take me out. And see, like a shadows appear to be something bigger and scarier than what they really are.
Whew.
But you was with me and I'm here. So I don't know what's going on and it don't feel good, but I trust you in your word. So I really just like laid myself at his feet, surrendered everything to him and just positioned myself for ministry. I didn't know what it was. Unfortunately for me, when I was experiencing my losses and losing my children, I had no peer support. I had no one who experienced pregnancy loss or miscarriage or infertility or anything to talk to candidly, transparently.
Mm-hmm.
I made the mistake of thinking that some of the people who were in my circle that I could confide in them, about certain things and that they would understand and some people didn't. And I come to find out that it was actually the ones who were not mothers and were not married were the friends who actually showed up for me. And so basically I just really had a heart of compassion for the
Yeah.
Pale family. And PAL is pregnancy and infant loss. That's what that acronym is for. I had a heart for them and I just began to cry out like, um, what about other families who are experiencing pregnancy loss? going through the same things I did. For me, I went through, I suffered nightmares, hallucinations, a lot of trauma, PTSD, suicide ideation. I was just like, this is too much. I could
Mm.
be done.
Yeah.
The enemy really had a hold on me, and because I had nobody to talk to, I had no one to point me in the right direction, no one to really support me, no one to really understand what I was going through personally. It's one
Mm.
thing to read a book or to go online and do some research. But it's another thing to talk to somebody who has been down that road and know
Yeah.
exactly what that's like. And I used to tell my husband all the time, I wish I knew someone who could gauge me like a thermometer and say, "This is where you are. I know where you are,
Yeah.
and I know you're gonna be okay. You're like 2 steps away from this,
Mhm.
or I see, a little bit more work that you need to do." And so anyway, I just began to cry out to God and seek Him about support for other families. Um, because I did call agencies and different organizations here in town. Nobody called me back to give me that support. So there was a void. So I began to say, okay, God, I see a lot of things on, Instagram, couple of events for the Pale family. And I said, wow, I wish something like that existed here. I would go and I would connect with some people. And we see walks and marathons and other events for all other kind of causes. But why isn't there anything here in town, for pregnancy and infant loss or child loss or infertility?
Yeah.
And he literally told me, he said it doesn't exist yet because you have yet to create it. And I said,
Ooh.
okay. Me?
Ooh.
Create what, God? Because I'm broken. How am I
Mm.
supposed to create something? And I've never done this before. You asked me to do something that's heavy. But when I came home from losing our last baby, Hope, in 2018, um, God had begun to speak to me and said that everything that I was going through was because I'm a curse breaker. And because I had the power to break it off, not only myself, but for women to come behind me and those in my generation and also in my family. I didn't understand exactly what he meant at the time.
Yeah.
Um, but I can see that now, and that anointing is flowing through me. And God has given us Keys of Hope. So, Keys of Hope is a nonprofit organization, and we have a support group. It's not your woe with me typical support group. Your tears are welcome. Your grief, your sadness is welcome. Um, However, that's not where God wants you to stay. He wants you to get back to living a life of hope
Yeah.
after loss. How do you get back to hope? So he gave me 6 keys, keys of hope, like a key, So I'm wearing my little key now. What's so funny is that actually, like months before he told me anything about keys of hope, I had randomly bought this necklace because I needed one more item to get to like a certain discount or something like that at the store. So I turned around and looked, and there it was, but he led me to it. So it was on me the whole time.
Wow.
And so he gave me 6 keys of hope. How do you get to hope? Well, number one is understanding grief and support, understanding those models. Some people don't know that that there is stages to grief and that you can be in the same stages or all 5 stages in one day at one
Right.
time. And it feel like you're crazy, you're going crazy, but you're not, you're grieving. So we talk about grief and support. Keep hope. Number two is friendships. Our friends are vital important to our lives. They're the first people that we connect with and learn how to share and do things with, per kindergarten, preschool, you meet friends and that's how you learn and evolve and grow and things like that. But some of our friends don't understand what to say to
Yeah.
a woman who's experienced loss. Sometimes they figure they say nothing at all, but actually that's not a good thing. So we just talk to the friends and invite them to have their besties to come to the support group, and we just talk about their loss and what's your perspective on what do you think or know that happened to your friend and how can you better serve them and just show up for her. We also talk about keep hope number 3, which is family, relationships, and marriage. My husband and our pastor takes over that one. That's the men takeover, and I love that one because God moves in that group. Because men, our husbands, our significant others, they grieve also.
Yeah.
Not only did we experience the loss, but they have lost a child also, and so it's important for men to get together and really talk about their grief. And we also share about how um, the healing and grief, is not the same. Men grieve differently, and that's okay. And then we also talk about how our marriage was impacted by the loss because of my grief. And literally, I had lost my mind. I didn't even know who I was. It was a lot. It was real heavy in our marriage. But I thank God for the redemptive plan that He gave my husband. And so we go through little exercises with other couples. Key of hope number 4 is self-care. It's just important to know that, hey, the pain is not my fault, but the healing is my responsibility. And I learned that,
Yes.
yeah, that I mean, it's vital because nobody called me back. I called several agencies. Like I can pull up my phone records from that season and you can see all the different agencies I called and left messages with,
Wow.
and nobody called me back. And so I said, okay, God, it's me and you and me. What we
Mhm.
gonna do?
Right.
What are we gonna do? And so he began to give me a self-care plan and taught myself how to affirm myself and how to mother myself. I needed to nurture myself. Or as my great grandmother told one of my aunts one time, it's called massaging your feelings. Yeah, you gotta take
Absolutely.
care of yourself and massage your feelings and work through your thoughts and
Absolutely.
stuff like that. So that's very important. A mother who loses their baby, the first thing is like, what did I do? Ooh, was it
Mhm.
that food
Yeah.
I ate last week? Was it that trip I took? Oh, I signed up for an exercise class a couple months ago. Could it have been that? You're just trying to figure out why. And as
Yeah.
a mother, you take on that guilt and that shame and beat yourself up so badly, and we tend to forget to take care of us. So
Yeah.
we get back to us. Key of hope number 5 is faith, faith, faith. God, where are you when I lost my babies? Where are you when I'm grieving? Where are you when I'm sad, when I'm crying? I love his word in Psalms. It talks about how he actually bottles up our tears.
Yes.
And I love that because every tear, I remember one season after losing in 2017 when I lost my son, I just wanted, as a worshiper and as a prayer warrior, I couldn't pray. I couldn't worship. I was broken. I was hurt. So literally, I would get on my knees and get ready to pray, and I just had tears,
Wow.
and they just flowed and flowed and flowed. But I know and I believe that, like His word says, that He collected all of those tears, and He's worked um, that grief through for me. So we talk about faith and just understanding, what does God's word say about faith? How do you get faith? How do you move forward with hope? Where is He at? Where is He in His presence when we experience loss, especially something like that? And we also look at some women in the Bible. Hey, what we've experienced is not new. Rachel, Rebecca, Leah, Hannah, Elizabeth, Mary, Sarah, they've experienced barrenness, Hannah in the Bible. And so we just look at their lives and what God did for them, and just connect that to our faith. Just get back to faith and not blame God, because a lot of times we are angry and upset at God
Yeah,
that He allowed
absolutely.
it to happen. We know that He didn't
Mhm.
cause it to happen. He didn't make it happen, but He
Right.
allowed it. And it was allowed for a reason. Sometimes we will know why, sometimes we never will know why. And that's okay. But we don't want to lose our faith, because guess what? He's the only person we can depend on through
Absolutely.
something as big as this anyway. And then our last key of hope is dreams and goals and visions. Like the word says, where there's no vision, the people perish. And a lot of times, after such a loss, because that pain is so heavy. It's like a pain. I didn't even know that pain existed until I
Mhm.
lost my own babies. And you're just trying to figure out life after that.
Yeah.
And I remember my husband helping me create a simple goal to help me mentally, because what we're eating for dinner tonight, it will just drive me nuts. Like I had high anxiety just trying to decide what we're going to eat for dinner
Yeah.
after that loss. It really took me to a low place mentally. So he helped me to recreate some goals, to set something simple. And once I saw that, hey, I can check that goal off, I completed it, I did that. Then I started to see I can do more and I can do more. And it can be something real simple. But I also had to understand that I'm not the same Anisha who I was
Wow.
before. So I had to rediscover who I was and understand that, hey, I have a new vision and a new perspective and a new outlook on life, and that's okay. So, hey, I'm Anesha Stanley. I'm a mother who's lost 5 babies, and I have a rainbow baby. Thank God for her. I'm so excited about her. But I had to reintroduce myself to myself and get to know
Ooh-wee.
myself and be okay with it.
Mhm.
Be okay with this new person that was trying to come out. Or I would say a person that was always there, some strength. and grit that I didn't know was there, but it
Wow.
emerged out of that. So that's what Keys of Hope do. We walk them through those 6 keys of hope, how to get back to hope, living a life of hope after loss. And it's just so powerful. God moves, and I'm happy to say that many of my women who've gone through the support group have messaged me. Even the other night, while we were completing our third group session, called and said that, hey, they're pregnant with their rainbow baby.
Oh,
So God has been moving, but a lot of them was like, I wouldn't have been able to conceive again or get back to like, a life of hope had I not met you or going through that through the support group. And so that's what we offer. We just offer them hope. We offer them those 6 keys, and we also give them a gift, which is pretty much a self-care survival kit that I've curated, and it's really what I use to nurse myself back to health. I now give it to these women because I just want to be a blessing to them. So not only are they getting the education and the resources, they're also getting direct contact with different healthcare professionals who
yeah.
also co-facilitate the classes with me, like yoga instructors, my physician, therapist, a minister, pastors, counselors, but also um, they're getting a tangible gift of hope so they can see it, and also some tools, some little things in there that they can use to work through the grief on this journey. So that's what Keys of Hope is about. We're about breaking our silence,
Yeah.
supporting families, and promoting the awareness of pregnancy loss, infant loss, and infertility in the Great Lakes Bay region. And I also just added maternal health care. It's just great to get that education about maternal health care.
Good. That is amazing. Um, what would you define a dead weight as? And how did you identify that in your life?
Mhm.
And then how did you let that dead weight go?
Wow. Um, I had a lot of time with myself. Like I said, I came to that revelation, or God gave me the revelation that I'm a new person. And so a lot of dead weight for me that I have been shedding over the years was, um, well, one in particular, I'll say now in this season, grief. I'm getting the grief out of my body. I'm learning to let it go and get it out because as the years go on, there will always be triggers like due dates, birthdays, anniversaries. Your body remembers triggers of the seasons of which, I lost my children, or it would have been their birthdays or something like that. And in those seasons, of course, it's easy for one of the stages of grief, depression, to be
Yeah,
really high. And I don't want to be there no more. Like I have my days and I have my moments, but I don't wanna stay there. I wanna
absolutely.
move on quicker than I have in the past, and so the day away from me, is whatever is leaving me, like, stagnant, that's
Mhm.
stopping me from progressing, whatever is fogging my mind, my vision, that's keeping me from fulfilling my purpose. Um, so right now in this season, because this was like one of the seasons in which I lost my third baby in 2017. It was been, a little hard the past couple years around this season, but I'm doing much better. So I'm just trying to get that out of me because sometimes I've been finding myself the past couple weeks just want to do nothing, just wanting to get in the bed. Same thing I did, in that same season. But I recognize that it's the triggers, and those things are just trying to, keep me from actually moving forward with what I really need to do. Even my daily things and list of things that I need to do. Another thing that I've had to identify with as dead weight was like some friendships.
Yeah.
I've decided to walk away from some friendships um for a lot of reasons. But especially when I particularly were, going through the loss, it was more so some friendships where they didn't take the time to try to hear me and understand where I was coming from or show up. Like I said, it was more so like my friends, my 2 best friends who lived out of state. They lived out of state, were not parents, and were not married, not in the same position as I was. they're the ones who showed up with like get plane tickets and come home and see me and take me out and say, come on, we're going to eat. We're finna go sit down. I just want to listen to you, or just call me and have a regular conversation. Don't just text me. Like, pick up the phone and call and see about people. Sometimes this technology has been keeping us, you know, um, away from actually being personal with
Yeah.
people. And in those seasons when somebody's going through something, they need to know that you are there. So pick up the phone and call. So for me, I had to let go some friendships, and you and I have talked about this a lot. Even we met on those premises talking about friendships and letting go of some things that may have hurt us.
Absolutely.
But I'm so glad I let it go because I learned a lot about me, but then God also began to just speak to me about, people not having the capacity to actually probably be what it is that you want them to be in certain seasons. And
Yeah.
that's okay. You have to learn how to let that go. And so moving forward, when it comes to friendships, because I finally let go of the dead weight, when I'm moving forward in friendships, I'm treating it like a date, like data. Dating comes from like that root word of data, which means to collect information. And so even when you're in your friendships, it's like I need to collect information. I need to know how you fight.
Yep.
When your back is against the wall, I
Mhm.
need to know if I can call and pray for you, or if you can call and pray for me,
Yeah.
or I can call you and tell you, hey, this is what's going on. Even something that may cuts me to my core. Can I
Yep.
trust you with that information? Just anything. I need to collect this data. I need to know who you are when the road gets tough and when the sun is shining. I need to know all of that. So before I start putting all my eggs in one basket or investing in this relationship,
Yeah.
I need to collect my data. I need to do my work before I put a final decision together and say, okay, that's my ride or die, or who they are. So that way you can place them properly where they go. Because some people we put in our inner circle, no, they need to be in the crowd. That's your occasional friend. They're not, you know what I'm saying? They're not
Yes.
that
Yes.
inner circle person who can
Yes.
be in the living room or at the kitchen table. Everybody
Yes.
doesn't deserve to be there. And that's that. And that's okay. So dropping once I learned that, let that weight go and then learn that and get that revelation. Now I can approach friendships differently. So, okay, if Kiera don't call me back, okay, she busy.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna take it personal or something like that, or whatever, and I'm free. I guess I would say once that dead weight has been shed, I've found freedom,
That's
a lot of
amazing.
freedom. Yeah,
That's
thank you.
amazing. So, you talked a little bit about those that were there to be with you during that hard season. You talked about your
Mhm.
husband. We're going to talk about him in a second, but you talked about those friends that weren't close by in proximity, but they made sure that you knew that they were there for
Mhm.
you and that they were supporting you during this time. Did you find that every single time you went through this, like you didn't have anybody to depend on, or it was just a few?
It was just it was a few, what was funny is that actually once I started breaking my silence even more, I found out that more people actually went through it.
Wow.
Then they, didn't talk about it. It's like everybody jumping out the bush. It's like, hey, me too, me too.
Right.
Like a me too movement. It's like, well, where were
Where
you
were
at when?
y'all?
Exactly.
Where were
Like I
y'all
could
at?
not, yeah. But like, okay, for instance, my mother, she's had 4 successful pregnancies, no problem. So she, of course, was hurt because I was hurt, as her daughter,
Yeah.
and those were her grandchildren, but she really couldn't like identify with me, understanding her. The only person I feel like that could have really, really helped me was my grandmother. My grandmother had just passed away that August, right
Wow.
before I experienced the reoccurrent pregnancy losses. But other than that, it was, my husband was there, of course. We went through it together. And I'm glad that we got through that together, because actually 40% of marriages actually end in divorce due to an infant loss, a child loss, or a pregnancy loss. And that number, that's high, but I thank God that we were able to walk through it together and support one another. Like I said, my 2 best friends, one of them is my childhood friend, another one's from a friend from high school. Um, and then just random people. Sometimes it may be somebody that you wouldn't have expected, to come out and say, "Hey, me too." I've had just a few, but I've had a lot of people also say, "Hey, well, you're young. You can try again. You'll be all right."
how do you deal with people that say things like that?
You have to like literally filter the information that you get. You know, everybody, they mean well, but they may not say well or say, maybe what you want them to hear or whatnot. But that's why I say you have to filter it and you have to know, like, okay, who do you have in your corner? Who you can talk to, who you can call to encourage, to be encouraged. You know what Proverbs 27:17, as iron sharpens iron, so one woman sharpens another. You just have to know who's in your corner for you. But yeah, when you get that information from people or they say like some bogus things, wish them well, bless them. They just don't know. Because a lot of times it's like, out of sight, out of mind. Or if it never happened to me, then I don't know exactly what to say or how to handle it.
Yeah.
And you just have to be okay with everyone not, well, some people are ignorant to it because they, haven't experienced it. But when that happens, they have to just, or you as a person, just filter it, yeah, you're young, you can try again and things like that. I would say use that as an opportunity to break your silence and share with them a little bit more about your story so they can actually see like what you went through. um and then also promote the awareness of it and say, well, you know what, hey, this happens to 1 in 4 women. 1 in 4 women will experience a miscarriage. 1 in 50 pregnancies will end in an ectopic pregnancy. Every year, there's like over 20,000 babies who are born still. And not only what you hear is the term or the stat, um, this is what happens to a mother when she experienced loss. She has to go back to that doctor's office
Yes.
and continue to get, that blood work and those levels done. And when she goes into that office, she's reminded of
Yes.
what happened to her. And
Yeah.
she has to look at other women who are pregnant or would
Yes.
have been the same, far along as she was. And so
Yeah.
it's a reminder to her and her pain. And you may have heard that she had a miscarriage, but now she's battling with, anger and guilt and rage and maybe some things that she was suppressing from childhood and other years. This may have been like the icing on the cake for her. So now a lot of more is coming up. So it just like take the time to just, educate them on what pregnancy loss is, how they can best support someone. And honestly, if you have to just candidly tell them what it is and what it's not, then just say that, hey, I appreciate and, your concern, but that's really not something that a woman like me who's going through this really wants to hear.
Yeah.
However, I appreciate your concern, but, just let them know if it's not something that's appropriate or,
Yeah.
and just have those conversations. Like Michael Jackson used to say, with love. Tell them, say something, say with love, at the end. I mean, because honestly, like I said, a lot of people are ignorant. They just really don't know what to say, don't know what to
Yeah.
do. So you just
Yeah.
take it, okay, thank you, appreciate it. Won't be talking to you again, but, moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that that's really good advice because I found that in our, especially in African American communities,
Mhm.
we act as if a miscarriage is a taboo subject
Mhm.
because we walk on eggshells to address it instead of going into it. Like I wish, and this is what I always tell people, I wish that I would have been notified, at least knowledgeable of what this was, what are the
Mhm.
symptoms, what could happen, so that in the case that it did, I
Mhm.
would be prepared.
Right.
Usually you handle things better when you're prepared for it. And when it's not looked down upon as a taboo subject, then your perspective is different. And so I
Yeah.
think that another part of dropping dead weight is redefining what something is. I think that if we
Mm.
could understand that a miscarriage is not your fault
Right.
in a lot of
Absolutely.
senses, and especially with my situation, it was my body rejecting something that could endanger my life. And so we have to start changing our perspective on not just loss, pregnancy loss, and infant loss, but in a lot of
Mhm.
other things that we just don't talk about because it's
Right.
uncomfortable.
Yeah, we have to change the narrative.
Yeah,
And we
absolutely.
have to, like I said, use those as teachable moments to promote the awareness of it and to talk about your story, share your story. Actually, I was talking to my doctor one time, and he was actually saying that he was more astonished at the fact that people are born than there are miscarriages or pregnancy losses because your body actually does fight off the pregnancy or try to fight it off as if it's something like foreign
Hmm.
because it's different in your body. And everything that has to go on with a baby being created in the womb is so God,
Yeah, absolutely.
where there's it's not like they're going in every week, every appointment. Okay, now we're gonna put this in, and now we're gonna put that in, and we're gonna put that in to make sure that it progresses and of course, full term at the end is really something that they know that they really don't have their hands on. And
Yeah.
so the fact that he said, the fact that people are born is more of the miracle than anything. So it's just like, like you said with the Black community, that's why I do like to talk about it. And unfortunately, a lot of women in the Black community, we don't talk about it and we
Yeah.
don't share. And that's because over the years, grandmama and them said, what happens in this house stays in this house. So you don't talk about it. You don't tell nobody your business. But what happens? We keep recreating generations of women who are hurting and
Yeah.
dealing with trauma and angry. And then you wonder why Keisha always popping her neck and always popping off and why she this and that. Yeah, Keisha's angry. She's upset. She's dealing with some stuff. But
Yes.
all the other women in the generations before her said, don't talk about it,
Right.
or, but no,
Help
I need to talk
Keisha.
about it. Help
Yes.
Keisha. Help her.
Help
Help
her.
her. Help me. Kevin Hart, help me. Help me. Help me. And that's what I was feeling like. I was like, Lord, help me. Somebody, please help me. But like I said, when I did open up and say something about it, here come like maybe 2 years later, one of my aunts said something happened to her. I'm like, where was you
Wow.
at?
Where were
Or,
you?
yeah. So, and also counseling. I wish we could change the narrative well, we can. We can by breaking our silence and sharing our stories and flooding the timelines and talking about it, promoting the awareness. And October 15th, which is National Wave of Light Day, October is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month, but a lot of people don't know that because that's also Breast Cancer Awareness Month and Domestic Violence Awareness Month, which is also great causes as well. But like, talk about it, share your
Mhm.
story, change the narrative, and create collectives where we can get together of women and share our stories and talk about those things and stuff. But yeah, and I really wish in the Black community we would do better because a lot of times in my support groups, I don't hear it's not us who's showing up and registering, you know.
Wow.
Actually more Black women will call me personally or text me personally or message me personally and want to talk privately versus actually coming to
Wow.
a group session and actually getting the tools and everything they need. I'm like, no, I'll be fine. I just want to talk about it one time. Or, I think we talked about it the other day, like just continuing want to talk and talk and talk and talk, talk. It's fine to talk. And it's okay for me to call you and pray for you and those things, but you, sis, you have to put in the work. And if that means you need to go see a therapist or a counselor or enroll and register in a support group like Keys of Hope, do the work. You have to do the work. And a lot of times, not even just with this particular situation, people just want, that instant healing, that instant change,
Yeah.
and that instant everything's going to be all right in an instant kind of thing. But grief is a process that you have to work through, and it's not easy. And
Yeah.
it's just best to go through it not alone. Because you're not alone. There's so many other families and women who go through it. So I think it's just time to change that narrative, get you the support and the help that you need so you can be better for yourself, your family, and to fulfill your purpose.
That's amazing. So you started talking about how people will call you and they will text you and they just want to talk through it, or I just want to talk one time, or I'll just be okay.
Hmm.
I think that's another area that we need to drop dead weight,
Yeah.
is that inability to be vulnerable in those moments where we should be.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I have found, especially with, we were a part of the group Mothers Like Us University, and that is where Anesha and I met.
Yay.
virtually.
Virtually.
And actually, the woman who Tashana Burrow, who was on my podcast
Tashana.
last week, right? Shout out to Tashana. Um, she started this movement basically where she teaches us how to get over or grow and evolve
Yep.
past our moments in our times of trials and grief and sadness and all of those areas where we need healing in order to complete our next goal. And that goal in our program was writing the book that God had given us, writing whatever God was giving us. And I found that I took my first step going through healing, and this wasn't even with the loss of a child, but it was with postpartum depression. I took my first step to overcome that by signing up for the group.
Yeah.
I took my second step by entering into the group every week. And I
Right.
took my third step. And when we started, we were the only two people. I think we were the only two.
We were the only two in our session. Heal
in
your
our
heart, share your story.
Heal
Yeah.
your heart, share your story. And in those weeks, we both were in there, just us and Tashana, talking about the areas in our lives where we were wrecked, like where we were hurt, we were wounded, we were incomplete.
Absolutely.
And that's where we really got deep. And that's when Anesha and I really started to bond, because I realized that there was someone else in the world that felt everything that I felt and that knew where I was and didn't look at me differently just because of who I was to other people. At that moment, I dropped a ton of dead weight, because behind social media and what everybody else sees, I'm Kiara, the person who struggled with this and this and this and this. And Anesha and Tashana saw all of that, and they started to, okay, well, Kiara, this is how you get over this, and this is how you grow past this. And I think that we would, as a people and as people in general, would be a lot better if we started to just allow people to help us.
Yep. And to speak into our lives and fill us up and call you out on some stuff or see some things, because actually that was so therapeutic for both of us. And like you said, the fact that like to find someone else who's experienced that same loss. And like I said, at that time I was walking away from friendships and stuff, but guys, started to knit our hearts together. And I said, she right down the road, right down the street. Like, how? Okay. That's amazing. Like, when this pandemic is over, I'm getting in the car.
Yes.
We're gonna link up, because I feel like
Yes.
we've known each other now for forever. But I mean, I remember, like you said, it's what you put in is what you get out also. Because I remember coming to group session one time and I just like bust out crying. It was like, "Ooh," and then next thing you know, Pastor Kier, she prophesying this person, this and that, and Angela, everybody just
That
going
was
in, and then I'm going in on you.
whole
That was a whole movement, okay?
That was a
My mind was
whole
blue.
God move. Like, that's how you know that it's the right.
Yeah.
God positions us in the right moments if we take advantage of those moments. And I think all of us really made the decision to say, okay, I don't even care what people may say when I tell them this. But when I got on there, I remember it was like the second to last session or the last session. I was just like, listen, I can't take this. I am over this. I am tired of fighting through this. And y'all just went
in.
Okay.
Yeah. I had to stay muted a lot because I was like, "Ooh, the Lord is telling me to tell Kiara this, and that," but because they know every time I get on there, I'm like, don't let Anesha say nothing. I'm like, I'm not trying to, because I want to be on here just like Kiara don't want to be on here. I'd rather, because putting in the work, honestly, putting in the work is hard. It's hard work. It's a lot of growth. But I told myself at the beginning of this pandemic, before I even knew anything about it, how long I think at first it was only supposed to be like, 14 days or a couple weeks or something like that. We went in March, you'll be done by April, whatever. I said, okay, well, whatever this is, I'm coming out of this thing better than I went in. Because we always say, oh, I wish I had more time to do X, Y, and Z. Well, we had the time. He gave it to us. So what you gonna do now? But I was determined. And I looked at myself in the mirror and said, Anesha, you got some stuff you need to deal with.
Yes.
You got some stuff that needs to be gone, and eventually, somebody will look back on this and say, okay, I understand where she was coming from. But I had some stuff I had to shed. I had to let go. God had begun to speak to me about dropping the dead weight, and shedding those things or whatever. But yeah, coming to that group, I didn't know that he was going to use that group and use perfect strangers,
Yes.
to do the
Yes.
work. It was a bait. The bait was like writing and sharing the
Yes.
story. That was the bait, but it was so much more that came out of it. We leaving
Yes.
crying and
Right. Every week,
not.
my husband would be like,
What's
"What
wrong
are
with
you
y'all?
doing in there?"
Exactly. I thought this was your writing class, your journal prop writing
Right.
class. You coming all out like, looking like whatever, hair
Right.
everywhere, eyes all puffy. It was a lot, but you know what? I thank God for it, for the growth and everything. That
Absolutely.
had I not been in it, I wouldn't have found out even more about my purpose and everything that God had me, what He wants for me to do. So I'm grateful for it.
Agreed. So we got two last questions
Okay.
for you. The first one is, okay, so this year has been an amazing year for you. Can we just say that? You are a
Yeah.
whole doula.
I am a whole doula.
So
Birth, bereavement, and postpartum.
so can you tell us a little bit about why you became a doula?
Yes. Okay, so Full Circle Doula Services is what my business is called. Full Circle Doula Services LLC. Um, when I gave birth to my daughter, or well, around that time as I was preparing to give birth to her in 2014, God had begun to speak to me about how I wanted my birth to look and how to be in control of the birth because I don't have anything to compare this to. I've never given birth before. I was like, God, you might have to give me some contractions because I've never had cramps before in my life. I
Oh
don't know what this
wow.
feels like. So I'm kind of scared. So it was a lot of fear trying to come at me, but he taught me how to have a birth without fear. And just randomly, so many other like young ladies would call me and was asking me questions about, how to prepare for birth and what they should do, how to advocate for themselves, or they needed, a support person. They didn't have like, their child's father, or they just needed some extra support or lactation information and stuff. And so without knowing like at that time, the role of a doula or anything like that, and I wasn't a trained doula, a certified doula, I just offered them the support and I checked in with them and had, weekly meetings, or I would go over there with them. I went to the hospital before and discharged them, or was with them when they did that and advocated for
Wow.
them just out the kindness of my heart. And I didn't know what it was, but I knew it was something, but I felt good about it. My heart was full after I would help them. And so um this year during the pandemic, I kept seeing an email from a young lady, Erica McAfee of Sisters in Loss in Maryland. I kept getting her emails every day, and I kept ignoring the email about, starting the doula trainings, and I deleted it every day for like 2 months, because I'm already sitting up here messing around with Tashana and Kiera. I don't have time to be messing around with nobody else. Look, I don't know if I got any more to give to anybody else right now because they tear me up. Okay, so no, but so like 2 days before the class started on a Sunday night, it was a Friday. I sat down and checked my emails. I literally felt like Holy Spirit sat me down and told me to read the email. And I read the email. As I'm reading the email, he began to remind me, like, you've already been doing the work. And he reminded me of every birth, even, down to my nephews, every person that I supported through birth, but without the certification. He said, you've already been doing the work, but this is what I need for you to do. I need you to take this training. And I got my questions down and I called her and asked her, some questions, got some information. She even gave me a little discount, bless it, hallelujah, to enroll. So that was great.
Hello.
But as I'm in the class and I'm learning and I'm growing in the information and the education, God began to just say full circle, full circle. And I kept saying, okay, what are you saying? And he just kept saying full circle, full circle. So I said, okay. So he was like, pretty much, I'm restoring you back to a place in which you have previously been before, but this time I'm returning you back empowered. And it's twofold because it's like I've already been doing it, but this time with the certification. But I'm also empowering you to go back to the scene of birth where the enemy tried to take you out,
Ooh.
where the enemy thought he had you and where he won because
Woo.
perhaps my children are in heaven now growing up with God. However, I'm returning you back to that scene empowered and to teach other women how to have a birth without fear and to have a self-determining birth and to help them, especially through the fourth trimester, which is what people don't talk about a lot. We buy the baby shower gifts and
Yes.
we do everything and we got the cribs, we got the car seats, we got all the
Mhm.
pretty things. Cool. But even the strongest woman herself can tell you, even Beyonce alluded to it before, like after having given birth, you can be the strongest, most healthiest fit person and mentally fit person. But postpartum mood disorders are real.
Woo.
Um, the baby blues are real. And just getting back to normalcy, not even really getting back to normalcy. I would say there's a rebirth that happens also for the mother and
Yes.
for the woman as well. And a lot of times we don't talk about that.
Mm.
So that's where I come in. I love postpartum. I love that because I'm able to help them with them mothering themselves, taking care of themselves, and becoming acquainted with them after this rebirth into womanhood, into motherhood, maybe a first time, second, third, fourth, fifth time, however many children they have, but just getting reacquainted with themselves and loving their bodies and saying it's okay to have the body I have after giving birth to my babies and just helping them mentally and creating self-care routines for themselves and how to nurture themselves. Unfortunately, for women, after you have a baby, you have to wait like 6 weeks before you see a doctor. That's a lot of trauma that has happened to your body
Yeah.
and your emotions and things like that. So having a support person and someone to help you say, okay, you know what, it's been 2, 3 weeks, it's time to go see a physical therapist, or maybe you need to go see a chiropractor, or let's go get a massage. And so you can just begin to work your body and your core and your breathing and things, because that's where the healing comes from. It's like your breathing and just getting your core situated and whatnot. And also just connecting with your baby during that time as well. We want that to be more enjoyable than a time where you're stressed and you're not getting all the sleep you need, but it's only because you haven't really properly assessed who can help you and support you at that time. So that's what I help them put together a plan. And I love it. I love it. And I've been seeing God just do amazing things as He has restored me back to the place of birth, the scene of birth, just to let the enemy know you ain't win.
Period.
God wins,
Period.
the victory is won, and here I am. So
That
yeah.
is awesome, Anesha. Okay, so the last question is, do you have anything that you would like to announce? Is anything happening for you other than like you are a doula and Keys of Hope? Are there any other things happening?
There's some other things happening, but you know me, Key. I like to move in silence a little bit. So,
I know.
but I'm working on my writing and things like that. So I'm excited about that whenever God will allow me to share. Keys of Hope is just growing, it's moving. We are registering if any women are, if you've experienced, first of all, if you're listening to the podcast or watching and you have experienced a pregnancy loss, you've lost your baby due to a miscarriage, ectopic pregnancy, a molar pregnancy, a chemical pregnancy, or a child loss or an infant loss. My sincerest, deepest condolences go to you and your family. I'm sorry that
Absolutely.
you have had to experience that loss. But I want you to know that you are not alone, that you will survive, and that, especially if you're in the Great Lakes Bay region or Flint, surrounding areas, there is support and there is hope. I'm here. I'm reachable. I will call you. I will come by. I will come see you. But we have our Hope class starting back up in February. And so if you're interested in having more information about that, you can visit keysofhopefoundation.com/support group. And then we're also working on a couple other events for PAIL families. And again, PAIL is PAIL, pregnancy and infant loss families. So that way we can continue to break the silence and support other families in the region and get them the resources and the tools that they need, and also to promote the awareness of it. But also, one big thing that I'm really about when it comes to Keys of Hope is helping you to honor the life of your child, because that helps with the grieving process. Because some of the families may not have had the opportunity to meet their babies if it was like, early on pregnancy. So getting closure is really important.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if it's how you place that. So if you actually remember your baby as a person, as the person that they are, and the person that they were, whether it be like giving them a nickname or giving them a name or doing something special when the anniversary or that due date comes around, that's really important, and it helps the mother, it helps the family. And it just also allows you to have a platform where you can share your story and help other families as well, and not have that grief continue to be a source of trauma to you
Yeah.
every year. And you're becoming angrier and angrier and angrier and pushing people away. And yeah, we don't want that to happen. So I can discuss that a little bit more with them, but I'm working on just a lot of things with Keys of Hope. And again, if you are in that area also and you need a doula for your birth or for your postpartum services, please give me a call. Or you can also, that's also full, I'm sorry, keysofhopefoundation.com/full circle doula. More information is on there as well. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. Other than that, just baking here and there. Being a mommy to my rainbow baby. She'll be 6 next month. I know. She'll be 6 next month, but I thank God for her. Just helping her with homeschooling and all that good stuff right now, and teaching her about healthcare and stuff now, her body and her maternal health now, even though she's, almost 6, just it's important what we put in our bodies, what we put on our bodies, and just taking care of ourselves now and things like that. And just being a great wife, and every day just still appreciating and affirming Anesha and growing. So I'm just on a journey to just becoming a greater version of myself every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that is amazing. Thank you so much, Anesha,
You're
for being on the
welcome.
podcast today. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm so excited for you and all that God is doing for you and through you.
Thank you. Same to you. You killing it.
Well, thank you very, very
I
much.
love you.
I love you too. And thank you to everyone who's tuned into this podcast today. And remember, the only one stopping you is you. See ya.
Bye.